6 a.m. Diesel engine growling out in the driveway. Steam curling off my coffee, and Karen Whitfield pink bathrobe, fuzzy slippers, phone already pressed, her ear marching through the wet grass like she owned the whole damn neighborhood. You ever have one of those moments where you're not sure if you should laugh or just let the absurdity knock you flat? That was me, staring at this woman calling 911 on Meffer, working on my own truck in my own driveway. I mean, the audacity. If you've never been the villain in someone else's story before you've had your first cup of coffee, well, pull up a chair. So there I was, grease on my hands, jaw somewhere between amused and annoyed, while Karen, a self-crowned queen of Meadowbrook Estetesque, reached into her phone about noise violations and community standards. "This ends now," she hollered, pointing like I'd just robbed a bank instead of changing a fuel filter. I couldn't help it. I wiped my hands on my jeans, leaned against the old Chevy, and just smiled. Because, see, what Karen didn't know is that my family owned this patch of dirt long before she ever dreamed of ruling it. 10 minutes later, Officer Martinez rolls up. He looks at me, looks at Karen, checks the property records, and his whole face goes blank like, wait, what? That's when I knew Karen was in for a rude awakening. If you've ever had someone try to run you off your own land, you'll know the satisfaction of watching reality crash through their fantasy. But let me back up and give you the whole story. My name's Jake Morrison. 6 months ago, I inherited my grandfather's old farmhouse, 2.3 acres right smack in the middle of what's now called Meadowbrook Estates. Grandpa bought this place in '62, back when it was cornfields as far as you could see. He raised 5 kids here. I spent every summer of my childhood chasing chickens, hauling hay, and learning how to fix anything with a motor. When the developers came sniffing around in '89, Grandpa played it smart. Sold them the right to build their precious subdivision, but kept our land, ironclad in the contract. Morrison land stays Morrison land, no exceptions. I'm 45 now, freshly divorced, and coming back home was the best decision I've made in years. Mike's always said this place was holding me back. Turns out, the only thing holding me back was her idea of success. Now, Meadowbrook Estates. Well, it's a sight. 47 houses that all look exactly the same beige paint, perfect lawns, the kind of place where folks argue about mailbox height and Christmas lights. And reigning over all this, Karen Whitfield, HOA president for 8 years running, white BMW, hair always perfect, and a smile that makes you check your wallet. She's the type who will fine you for leaving your garbage can out an extra hour. I wish I was exaggerating. First few months, things were fine. I kept to myself, fixed up the house, helped Mrs. Chin next door with her groceries. But I guess Karen was just biding her time. 3 weeks ago, I found a violation notice taped to my door. Official letterhead, big red, seal the works. Unapproved vehicle repairs, excessive noise, non-conforming landscaping. $500 fine. 30 days to pay. I almost laughed. See, I may be a small-town diesel mechanic, but I'm not stupid. I spent the next evening at the county recorder's office, digging through every paper ever filed on this land. Not a single Morrison signature on any HOA agreement. We were exempt, grandfathered in. But that didn't stop Karen. When I ignored her fine, she posted about me on a neighborhood Facebook group, said I was lowering property values, called me a menace. Strangers I'd never met piled on, called me selfish, lazy, a bad neighbor. That's when I decided, screw it, I'm rebuilding Grandpa's '87 Chevy. Call it therapy, call it stubborn pride, I just wanted to hear that old engine purr again. 7 a.m. is within city ordinances, and that's when I started wrenching. Apparently, that's when Karen started plotting. I was up to my elbows in carb cleaner when I heard her slippers flapping through the grass. Martinez recognized me right away. "Jake, man, I haven't seen you since high school." We traded a few words about Grandpa. Then Martinez looked at his computer, then at Karen, then back at me. "Ma'am, according to these records, Mr. Morrison's property predates the HOA by about 30 years. You ever watch someone's whole worldview collapse in real time? Karen went pale, then red, then back to pale again. But Karen's not the quitting type. Next morning, Mrs. Chin texts me, "Emergency HOA meeting tonight." Karen's furious. Now, I'd never been to one of these meetings before, but I figured what the hell, may as well see the show. The community center was as beige as everything else, smelled like burnt coffee and nerves. Karen stood at the front, blazer pressed, hair perfect, with a full PowerPoint presentation. About me. She'd snapped photos of my garden, unapproved agricultural activity, my truck commercial vehicle violation, the barn Grandpa built non-conforming structure. "This individual," she said, pointing at me like I was a stray dog, "refuses to comply with basic community standards." I raised my hand. "Karen, can I ask a question?" She flinched, like the word itself was an insult. "This isn't a discussion period." "Fair enough, but you're showing my property and calling me this individual when I'm sitting right here." "My name's Jake." A few neighbors snickered. Karen's eye twitched. She barreled on, calling for legal action. The board, for people who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, voted 4-1 to pursue all available legal remedies. Mrs. Chun was the lone voice of reason. After the meeting, I headed to the recorder's office. Tommy Rodriguez, the night clerk, pulled up the original plat, mapped me 2.3 acres, clear as day, marked not subject to covenants. Turns out, not only was my land excluded, but the HOA had no legal claim over it. Tommy started digging into their filings. Turns out, the HOA had been charging maintenance fees for land they didn't control, including mine. By now, Karen was knocking on doors with a petition to remove me from the neighborhood. Anonymous letters showed up: "Sell and leave, or we'll make you." Mrs. Chun brought one over, hands shaking. She says, "You're opening a repair shop, Jake." "Mrs. Chun, I fix your mower because I like helping people, not because I'm running a business." But rumors spread. That's when I started documenting everything: cameras, survey markers, photos. And what I found digging through public tax records made my skin crawl. The HOA had been including my land in their tax and insurance assessments. Residents were paying for services on property the HOA didn't own, and Karen was pocketing the difference. Well, I called city code enforcement on her bluff. She showed up with the inspector, tried to claim my barn and septic were illegal. I produced Grandpa's 1963 permits. Inspector laughed. "Ma'am, this is all legal. Predates your zoning." Karen looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. I called a lawyer, Sarah Kim, sharp as a tack. She found more. The HOA had been billing insurance premiums and collecting for coverage they had no right to include. Fraud, plain and simple. Meanwhile, Karen created a fake Nextdoor account, stirring up the neighborhood, then called a meeting at the library and even contacted Channel 7 News, saying I was bringing the community to ruin. I showed up to the library with my folder of deeds and proof. Karen presented more photos, twisting reality. "That's from inside my barn," I said. "Which means you were trespassing." Dead silence. Even the reporter perked up. I explained the actual boundaries and rights. Showed everyone the original documents. Folks started turning on Karen, asking what their fees were really paying for. The room got loud shouting, apologies, and one man, Bob Henderson, saying Karen made it sound like you were a squatter. But Karen doubled down. Filed a police report claiming I'd threatened her at the library. Detective Williams came by. "Jake, the video shows you reading legal documents out loud. Unless that's a felony now, you're clear." But my security cameras had a better story: Karen creeping around my barn at 2 a.m., snapping photos and peeking in windows. "Detective, I think she's projecting." Williams grinned. "Want to press charges?" I wasn't sure until the phone rang. Sarah Kim again. Karen had hired a PI, Rick Donovan, to dig up dirt on me. Rick found nothing: clean record, clean finances. What he did find was that Karen had 3 pending ethics violations on her real estate license and had been using HOA funds for personal expenses. Rick flipped, turned over all his findings to us. The icing on the cake. Maria Santos from Channel 7 started her own investigation, uncovered residents being billed for unauthorized assessments. The neighborhood split into factions, some still loyal to Karen, others finally seeing her for who she was. But Karen wasn't done. She confronted me at Henderson's Hardware, shouting about me destroying the neighborhood, waving her arms until young Ashley Morrison started filming her meltdown. That video went viral, 47,000 views by Monday. Sarah Kim found the smoking gun Karen had set up a shell company, Meadowbrook Maintenance LLC, and funneled $127,000 from HOA funds to herself for work never done. Worse, the HOA itself had lost its legal standing, hadn't filed paperwork in years. Technically, it didn't exist anymore. Karen had been running a con, collecting fees, and enforcing rules she had no right to. That night, we plotted her takedown. Sarah Mrs. Chun, Maria Santos, Officer Martinez. We filed criminal and civil complaints, planned a public board meeting, and coordinated with the state attorney general. When Karen found out, she panicked. At 3 a.m., she hired a landscaping crew to destroy my vegetable garden. Security cameras caught it all. She got arrested for criminal mischief and trespassing, shouting the whole time about her rights. But she came back swinging. Someone punctured my truck's diesel tank. Cameras showed a masked figure, but Karen's fingerprints were all over the planning. The PI, Rick, called Karen had done this in other neighborhoods, targeted the elderly, manufactured crises, pressured them to sell, and pocketed the commissions. The FBI was now involved. Karen's family started to unravel. Her husband left. Her son got arrested for threatening me in public. She tried bribing a news director to bury the story. But the big blow came at the final board meeting. Crowd packed the courthouse. Maria Santos's cameras rolling, Prosecutor Janet Stevens in the front row, and the FBI quietly observing. Karen put on a show, accused me of harassment, called for my removal. Sarah Kim calmly plugged in her laptop, projected evidence of fraud, fake invoices, stolen funds. The crowd erupted, neighbors demanding refunds, Karen sputtering about conspiracies, until Prosecutor Stevens stood and announced Karen's arrest for aggravated theft and elder abuse. Maria dropped the bomb. Karen had run the same scam in 12 communities. The FBI pegged her theft at over $400,000. As Karen was let out in cuffs, I stood and held up Grandpa's deed. You forgot something, Karen. I don't just live here. I own here. The courthouse crowd cheered. Karen's mugshot became a meme. Channel 7's footage hit 2 million views in a day. Legislation changed in 6 states. The news called me the face of HOA reform. 6 months later, the sun sets over Meadowbrook Estates. The barn is full of laughter and potlucks. The community garden overflows. Mrs. Chun just turned 84, and Sarah Kim and Aya, we got married right there under the old beams. Karen's serving 12 years in federal prison. Her family scattered in the neighborhood. The best it's ever been. Property values up, smiles wider, folks helping each other instead of calling code enforcement. You know, my grandfather always said, a community is only as good as its neighbors. Turns out he was right. And if you got an HOA story nightmare or triumph, drop it in the comments. Let's remind each other, bullies only win if good people keep quiet. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't just living well, it's making sure no one else has to fight the same battle alone.